Warning: the following video contains explicit language which may be offensive to some viewers or inappropriate for children. The content within this video is intended for mature audiences only.
Hello and welcome to this video. Today's Rabbits Breakdown video is going to be this is part 1 from season 1, episode 5, Priesthood 1. The runtime on this is about 48 minutes, so this is going to probably be a 3-parter, with one of them being a little bit longer than the other parts. I'm not going to say too much in the intro to this simply because of spoilers. So let's get into it.
Ready when you are. Do you believe your friend was playing rabbits?
She started seeing mysterious men in gray.
What did she ask you?
She asked me how many steps to the lighthouse.
Now, we're 5 episodes in, and this dialogue in the intro sequence should start clicking with episodes that we've already listened to. And if you've done a good thing and listened to this without my breakdown, these little bits and sound bites in the intro should start kind of giving you ideas, or you should be recognizing them from previous episodes and start giving you ideas about what's going to come up.
What do you know about chaos theory?
The streets were red, then black with blood.
That sounds poetic. Where are you now?
The bottom line isn't money or purpose. It's inspiration.
Are we still gonna have sex?
I've actually found on the Rabbits Podcast website proper that there is a link to download the soundtrack from at least season 1 of Rabbits, and it's pretty good. It's a couple of bucks a track. It's depending how much you like the soundtrack and the music and stuff will depend whether or not it's for you to invest the money into.
I'm afraid not.
She believed Hazel killed Emily Masterson.
Maybe later.
For sure, later. I first heard about the game shortly after my best friend, Yumiko Takada, disappeared. I started this podcast because I want to find out what happened to my friend.
And this intro I always like this intro, even though by the time you get to episode 5, it's kind of redundant. But at the time they were releasing them like 2 weeks apart. So I understand why they used it the way they did.
From the Public Radio Alliance and Minnow Beats Whale, you're listening to Rabbits. I'm Carly Parker. Stay with us.
I'm not really sure if in the future I'm going to go ahead. I may just start skipping to after where the intro is, because I'm doing these weekly, but like I said, the Rabbits Podcast is on several different venues where you can check it out and listen to it just without the commentary. So I might do that in the future, just kind of skip to this point here, about 2 minutes in, and go with just jumping out with the episode. I don't know yet, but these were done, like I said earlier, they're done bi-weekly or once every 2 weeks when they were being released, and the intro was necessary, but because you can go and listen to the podcast, both seasons, and the 3-episode The Path. Well, you can basically binge listen to them. So I don't know. I'm kind of up in the air about that. If you have an opinion one way or another, leave it in the comments.
It's Marigold. You're on the air. Hello?
Hello, Marigold.
Persephone?
Yes?
I'm glad you called back.
I can't sleep.
Well, you're not alone out there. That's why I'm here.
And this is kind of, when you listen to it, if you listen, you just go to one of the venues that host it and you listen to it. This particular session part right here of this episode is becomes really eerie.
You believe you know why you're here?
Well, sure, as much as any of us can really know anything.
You can't trust anything or anyone.
Well, that's not a great starting position for a conversation, Persephone.
I'm sorry. I'm having a hard time.
What's going on?
My brother wasn't in the picture.
I'm afraid that doesn't make much sense to me. Could you elaborate?
And this is kind of when it starts to get kind of eerie and otherworldly.
We took a photo at Sears as a family when we were kids. My brother and I and my parents. That picture sat next to our sofa for my entire life. This morning I visited my mother. She still lives in the house I grew up in.
That's nice.
Yeah, it's great.
Please, let's try and stay positive, Persephone. I'd really like to help.
If you really want to help, it would really help if you could explain why my brother is no longer in that picture.
What do you mean? Did somebody cut him out?
No, he's just not there. It's a picture of 3 people.
What are you saying?
I'm saying that they erased my brother.
Yes. But once again, looping back to the impossible pictures and movies and things. Impossibilities.
Who erased your brother?
The people in gray.
Those are the people you said who follow you around?
Yes.
Persephone, you sound a little troubled. Is there somebody you can call?
I called you.
Is there anyone else? Maybe a friend or a family member?
They erased my brother.
And it seems kind of on the face or on the surface value that they also erased him from the memory of other people.
And they're coming for me next.
That doesn't make any sense.
That was a clip from the Marigold recordings. From tape number 23, time code 11 minutes, 9 seconds. For the past 3 days, I've been going through those recordings with Jones, trying to pick out anything that could be rabbits related. This clip stuck out, not only because it's the same person who called in about some kind of game earlier, but also because of the discrepancy with her family photo, or I suppose I should say alleged discrepancy.
So, you have to give Carly kind of a break here because she's been thrown into a world in which things are out of her comfort zone, out of her normality. So she's, you've got to figure out, can you trust what you're being told? Or do you have to be able to take it at face value, but do the research to see if somebody is just trying to screw with you or if it's legitimate?
It reminded me of the version of Andrew Wyeth's Christina's World Nick uncovered hidden in that JPEG, and the apparent discrepancy in my parents' death certificates. These things that seem to be just slightly off appear to be multiplying.
And if somebody or something out there is rewriting the world as we're going, I think of last global census or whatever, there's like 8 billion people on the planet. So, some people are going to get missed and may have the old memories or may have slipped into this reality through the Mandela effect.
Jones was interested, but he didn't appear convinced, or even all that concerned.
It's easy to lose focus following things like this.
Well, forgive me, but before I met you, things like this didn't happen.
I believe they did. You just weren't looking for them.
That's not helping.
Okay. All I'm saying is that alongside the genuine clues or events tied to the game are a lot of blind alleys, and 999 out of 1,000 of those things are either fake or unimportant.
That's very specific.
It's easy to become...
Now, I always get a kick out of when Carly says that's very specific, simply because that is one of my wife's taglines. When I describe something, or if I'm making a generality and I get rather too specific in my generality, if you can do that, I don't know. My wife, in about that exact same about that same tone and cadence, will use the words, well, that's rather specific.
You can become obsessed with this stuff, with certain discrepancies, and lose sight of what you're really trying to do.
I don't know what I'm trying to do.
You're trying to find out what happened to your friend, Yumiko.
Yes, I am, but if you don't mind, I have a couple more questions about my family. Jones.
Go ahead.
I need the name of the reporter who jumped in front of that train in Prague.
That didn't sound like a question.
The name?
Did you not hear anything I just said? What was that?
I don't know. A cat?
Do you hear a lot of cats around here?
No.
And we start to amp up the paranoia.
It sounded like a gate opening. Do you have a gate in the backyard?
Yeah. It was a cat. A cute one. Black and white. Mostly white with a little black patch over her eye. She's taken to spending most of her time in my backyard. And some of her time in my condo. I'm calling her Scout. Jones was gone.
Scout. See, I've always wondered if that was kind of a To Kill a Mockingbird reference, but I mean, it could be because that's the name of or the nickname of one of the protagonists in that book, but it's fitting being a cat because cats do cat things, and me being a cat owner, I can understand where she's coming from with that particular moniker.
He was relieved to see a cat rather than a group of imposing gray figures. He said he'd be in touch, but that, for the time being, the further he was away from me physically, the safer I would be. I told him I wasn't worried. He told me that I should be. Before he left, he also told me the name of the reporter who'd thrown herself in front of that train in Prague. Her name was Monica Morelli. Outside of a brief note on a Czech website, I was unable to find much of anything about Monica Morelli, or her death. Not surprising, I suppose, given the nature of everything surrounding rabbits so far. But still, I was convinced that there had to be something, somewhere.
And there always is something. Now, whether or not that something is useful or not, but there's always going to be something.
I wasn't going to the Czech Republic anytime soon, but I did have a friend from Slovakia who'd been living in Prague. In the interest of full disclosure, he's kind of more of an ex-boyfriend friend. Hello, Andre?
Carly, how are you?
I'm good, thanks. You got my emails?
Yeah, I did some digging. I even went to the library this morning.
Good for you. Any luck?
You owe me dinner.
Of course.
With wine.
Yes?
Lots of wine. Good French wine.
Okay, what did you find?
Monica Morelli was a freelancer who wrote under the name Thomas Miller. Apparently, she was strikingly beautiful and had been having a hard time getting editors to take her seriously. She stopped interviewing in person and began booking assignments immediately. She was a great writer, actually.
What did she write about?
Investigative stuff, social injustice, politics, more recently cults and medical experiments gone wrong. But she wrote in a very balanced way, never on a soapbox. She warned against the very real.
And we need more people in the news and entertainment business or not entertainment business, but people in news and news outlets to maybe embrace some neutrality for a while.
Possibility of losing net neutrality before most of us have even heard the term. She was smart.
What about the game?
Well, I wasn't able to find much that might be related to a game, but I sent you everything I could find.
Thanks so much for doing this.
Dinner and wine, Carly Parker.
Of course.
Lots of good
I'll be
French
in Seattle
wine.
in a few months.
I'm looking forward to it.
Okay. Good luck with everything.
Thanks.
Goodbye.
Bye. Andre sent me everything he was able to dig up on Monica Morelli. It amounted to 5 documents. The first 3 appeared to be unrelated. There was an article on political unrest in Turkey, a travel piece about her time spent in India as a teenager, and a first-person account of a trip she made to the Indianapolis 500 Speedway with her father. If those articles were related to rabbits somehow, I was unable to find the connection. The final 2 documents were more interesting. The first was a photograph of a large brick building with one word followed by a question mark scrawled beneath it in thick black felt pen. Gatwick.
Now, Gatwick, this is going to kind of be a spoiler, but Gatwick pretty much is fairly prominent in all iterations of rabbit stories, whether it be the novel, the podcast, season 1, season 2, The Path. I believe The Path touches on it a little bit. However, in the novel, it's pretty good. We'll find out in October when the second novel, A Quiet Room, is released, whether or not Gatwick is predominant or not.
The other document was a 4-page printout from an online gaming forum discussion of a game called Might and Magic 7 for Blood and Honor. It was a Windows-based game that had been released in January of 1999. Monica Morelli had joined the gaming forum using her regular email address. I wasn't able to find anything on the Gatwick building, but the online gaming forum printout was very interesting. It looks like Morelli had become obsessed with the game. Her description of that obsession on the forum sounded eerily similar to what had happened to Yumiko while watching that creepy video. Monica didn't move from her computer for 2 days.
Which has to make you wonder if there's any kind of subliminal or hypnotic kind of thing at a frequency that only certain people are going to tune into.
She said in her forum post that her boyfriend broke down her door because he thought something terrible had happened. But she was just sitting there, playing the game. Later, she wrote that she was pregnant and was no longer willing to risk the game, so she was asking other players on the forum to try and track something she'd discovered. She wanted them to win the game in her honor. But it looks like she wasn't honest about quitting. At least, not then.
Now, a question that I've asked myself several times going through the podcast and the novel, is once you start playing, are you even capable of stopping playing? And if you can, what cost to you, or even maybe to the other players in the game, is it, what is the game, or those who control the game, what do they want in return for you quitting?
She kept playing for a little while longer. In the game, she'd equipped her character with a longsword called Mournblade, and with this sword, she had become invincible. She powered her way through the rest of the game, and after she'd finished, she was shown a graphic. 2 doors. The doors were imposed atop a dark image. The dark image was a computer-generated graphic of a painting. That painting was Dog Lover in Hell.
Ba-ba-ba-bum.
The message was simple. Make your choice. She chose the door on the right. Just as she clicked her mouse on the image of the door on her monitor, her boyfriend entered and, once again, caught her playing the game. She had once again lost time, almost 24 hours. She was pregnant.
In her defense, I've played games, notably anything in the Fallout series or Minecraft, where I've done that. I've sat down to play 20 or 30 minutes. Next thing I know, it's 5 hours later. So yeah, I understand that, losing time in games.
And almost lost the baby. From that point, she really did stop playing. She told the people in the forum that she believed she should have chosen the door on the left. She wrote that, had she chosen the door on the left, she would have entered the gauntlet, the final stage of the game. She asked the others in the forum to find the sword she'd used and get to that door, but try as they might, nobody could find any mention of a sword called Mournblade in the game. The game's designers confirmed this. That sword didn't exist. That's where the printout Andre sent me of the forum discussion ends. But that's not the end of the Monica Morelli story.
By the time she'd started playing that game, I barely recognized her.
And being married to somebody who is an avid gamer, who especially likes the online MMO type games, it can be frustrating from the boyfriend or the spouse's point of view sometimes. But in the real world, it's more of an annoyance than it is worried about, dark forces or trying to find the answers to a secret game. But I've learned to overcome this and busy myself with other things when she's playing games. So in the real world, you've got to kind of strike a balance at some point.
Anymore.
That's Professor Harlan Harrison, chair of the English department at the University of British Columbia. I Skyped with him while he was on a break between classes. He's exactly what you'd expect in a professor of English Lit. Full beard, tan corduroy suit jacket with leather elbow pads. He was the real thing. Could you describe how her behavior had changed?
Well, she'd become obsessed with alternate histories. She thought that the world might be ending, that something was happening, a conspiracy. I mean, she went to Prague because she believed there was a discrepancy in an image in one section of stained glass in St. Vitus Cathedral.
What kind of discrepancy?
She'd uncovered 3 separate descriptions of a certain section of that glass that suggested a different layout from what she could see in the historical photographs. The abundant photographic evidence that she was on a fool's errand didn't seem to dissuade her at all.
So she wanted to see it for herself.
And another piece in the puzzle is revealed.
She was deeply disturbed at that point. I thought she might end up standing on a street corner yelling about how the Apollo moon landing never actually happened.
Right.
She started seeing mysterious men in gray following her around. I called her family and suggested they get her help, but I was too late. She was already on a plane.
Thanks so much for your help, for taking the time.
You're welcome, but please stay away from that game.
What game?
You know what game.
Yeah, that is, when somebody gives you a warning like that, or at least me personally, I'm the kind of person that's like, yeah, right. But when you look at just things that have happened, things that need to happen, things that are going to happen, it might be something to start taking seriously.
Hey everyone, my name is Terry Miles, and as most of you probably...
And I think we're going to go ahead and call the video here, just simply because this is the commercial portion of the podcast. Brain shut off there for a minute. It does that. That's the reason why I do the videos the way I do them, and I'm not real actively trying to do a great big huge monetized channel, is because I know what my limitations are. So we'll pick up next week with part 2 of this episode, and until next time, everybody, peace.